We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast, and today I told Ed I look at this as a vacation day because I'm so used to working with Ed and talking to him. It's a very easy, free flowing type of thing. But Ed gets a little riled up too. I get riled up, he gets riled up, and with the last week that we've had, you got to be a little. The hair in the back of your neck's got to be rising up and ready to tussle today.
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, you see, I'm dressed for it again. And for those who don't know, this is the uniform I wore for 3 years as a member of the Army Security Agency back in the 1970s, spying on North Korea. Um, so I dug it out of mothballs, if those still exist. I dug it out of the closet, and it
It
miraculously
fits.
it fits. Yeah, and I just take that as a sign that it is fitting that I should basically be on a warfare status, watching and waiting. And so that's why I wear this. The thing that I guess came home to me this week more than anything else is there are no good Republicans left. There's none. There are
You're absolutely
zero.
right.
When Newt Gingrich started his plucking all the good ones out of the party, and it continued after him even. So there's nothing left. There are no good Republicans left in office anywhere that I'm aware of.
Well, I think we've got two kinds of people. We've got the evil people, and we got the
Yes.
cowards. And
Yeah.
the cowards just follow the evil people because they're too afraid. That's what we've got. And when you say there is no good Republicans, these cowards that maybe don't think like the evil people, they're
Yeah.
supporting them. They're holding them up. So they are just as accountable. They're just as responsible as the evil ones.
Yeah. And the evil ones are easy to see. Stephen Miller, I just saw a thing on him. Someone who went to school with him said that if he found out two co-eds, two people had spent the night together, he would follow them around wearing a robe and ringing a bell, screaming shame. This is the kind of stuff he did in college. I'm surprised he made it through college, and somebody didn't take that bail and re-educate him. But this is the kind of stuff we're dealing with, and I don't think people realize yet just how much they want to alter not only American society, but world society. They very much want to take us back to the Dark Ages. They very much want to take us back to the Dark Ages. I'll say that again, where the church and the king ruled everything. And if you weren't royalty, you were a peasant. That's what they want.
One thing I've been very excited about the last couple of days, I've been watching on TikTok and other media or social media platforms. There is video after video of town hall meetings.
Yeah.
Republicans have come to their towns. Like there's a guy, McCormick, came back to Georgia, and this guy just got fucking hammered.
Yeah.
And they would ask him questions. One guy was asked the question, do you know what the first article is? Couldn't say. They said, you took the oath, and then they read it to him. Another person, this McCormick, a woman stood up and said, why are you suppressing votes? He goes, I'm not doing that. She said, well, you signed on a bill that makes it a requirement that your ID must match your birth certificate. Well, any woman that's married and took their husband's name, it's not going to work. So you want to disenfranchise 69 million people. And these fucks had no answers for anything. And these people just pounded on him. And he says, well, I don't even have to come here. And they said, it's your fucking job. These people are getting taken to task in these little red towns. And I'm very happy to see that.
Me too. And I'm glad you brought up that bill because it's called the SAVE bill, I believe. And that's exactly what it does. It requires that your last name match your birth certificate, which, of course, most married women, that's not a case, right?
Right.
So that would, in effect, it would cause quite a bit of I don't know if I haven't read the bill. I don't know if there's some workaround on it or anything, but on election day, it would certainly, people have to be having to cast provisional ballots and God knows what else. I don't know. I can't believe that it would pass constitutional muster, so I don't worry about it too much, except that
No.
we know more than half of the Supreme Court are dumb fucks, or rather evil fucks.
Yeah. Well, everything the Republicans do, they don't seem to think ahead of it. It's all reactionary. It's all punitive. I mean, that's their intention, is to be punitive. A good example is Elon Musk goes into the nuclear safety area, fires a bunch of people, and then says, whoops, now we got to hire them back, but we canceled their email, so we don't know how to reach them. He goes into the health division and he fires a bunch of people with bird flu. Oops, we shouldn't have done that. Now we got to try to get them back. These people are just flailing. There is no strategy. There is no planning. They just do whatever they do to wreak havoc.
That's exactly right. And in most cases, they're not saving any money, or if they are, it is exaggerated, or it is money that is actually needed, and they can't see the need for it because all they do is look at numbers. I mean, these people are not doing an audit. They are not auditors. They don't understand it. These are computer programmer people. That's all they know how to do is screw things up. Okay, and that's what they're doing, and that's the idea. That's always been the idea between Project 2025, which came out before the election. And I swear that tells me one thing: if you put that out there and you're not incredibly stupid, you're pretty damn confident you're going to win. Which makes me question a lot of stuff in Pennsylvania, particularly. I'm not saying the election was rigged, but I'm saying the election was rigged.
I'm saying, it's certainly possible with everything
Yes.
involved. When you have the richest man in the world who's tied to technology,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta question it. The thing about him going into these places, saving all this money. I've talked to Trump fucks, and they say we're saving billions of dollars, and I say, okay, where's the evidence of it? And there is no
Yeah.
evidence.
None. None.
Old Soul was on yesterday, and she talked about somebody she was talking to who was an accountant who believed they were saving billions of dollars. And Old Soul made a good point. She says, okay, you're an accountant. Have you ever done an audit before? How long does it take and what do you have to do? Is one crazy tech guy and four 19-year-old hackers, is that going to give you the proper information as far as an audit? This isn't about numbers. This is about fucking putting your hand in a bag and picking shit out. And then they come back and they say, well, when the news is getting bad and they're getting bad press, they said, well, we're going to get all this waste and we're going to give 20% back to you. And here's my question. First of all, if it's waste, it's already been spent. So where are
Right.
you going to get the money to send us?
Right.
Secondly, if it's a waste of tax dollars, why don't we get it all back? Why
Yeah.
only 20%? How big a cut
Exactly.
are you taking?
Exactly. Well, this is the point. It's all rhetoric. I mean, it's all they don't know anything. Trump has never known anything. He is the most information deficient person who has probably ever lived, certainly who has ever occupied an office, and certainly the presidency. He is completely intellectually deficient. His mind has no content other than to be able to lie. He's
Right.
very good at lying. And well, anybody can do that, right? You just take the opposite and make up stuff. That's
I
what
will.
he does.
I just want to say one thing. He is a liar. He's
Yes.
not a good liar.
No.
He's a
No.
he's a prolific liar, but he's
Yes.
not a good liar because he says one thing and then he comes back to the other. Like for example, he said Elon Musk works for Doge. He
Yeah.
runs Doge. Then he said, nah, he doesn't run Doge. He's an advisor. And then yesterday or the day before, he says, no, he's with Doge. He can't
Yeah.
keep his fucking lies straight.
No, and anytime somebody tries to point that out, he calls them fake news and throws them out of the news conference, or bans them from future news conferences and so forth, which should be illegal. Let's
Mm-hmm.
face it, the access of the fourth estate to politicians is a cornerstone of this country. To be able to question politicians, and like the guy who couldn't stand the heat in his a hometown meeting, and I don't have to be here. Well, yeah, you do. You do, or we'll take the job away because you're not
Yeah.
doing it. You know, you have to be accountable. Everybody has to be accountable. And as you pointed out, like with Trump, when he pardoned the January 6th guys, and a reporter pointed out, well, one of the guys you pardoned actually tried to kill a police officer, contributed to his death, tased him over and over again, and so forth. And you gave the guy a pardon. So Trump goes, well, you sure about that? Because it could have been a commutation, but we're looking at that. No, you're not. You released the motherfucker, okay? You're not looking at it. You're lying. And that reporter should have come right back at him and said, that's a fucking lie, you moron, and thrown his shoes at him and walked out.
Yeah. And even if he did give him a commutation as opposed to a pardon, that makes it fucking better.
No, it doesn't. Exactly. You know, everybody else said, the reporters, all of them, if they have any integrity at all, should stand together and demand an answer. If he shuts down one, the next one asks him the same question, and so forth until he finally gives up and storms off. That's what you do. You make him look like the idiot he is. Come on, guys,
But
girls.
his problem with AP. AP is a fairly respected news source, always has been for years.
Yeah.
And because AP won't acknowledge that it's the Gulf of America now, which he had
Yeah.
no right in changing because
No.
he has no authority over.
None.
Now, what's funny about AP, they do acknowledge Mount McKinley as opposed to Mount Denali because it's in the United States and because, however stupid it is, apparently he does have some authority to do it. But because they won't acknowledge Gulf of America, he's kicking him out of the press room. I was surprised to hear Fox News and some others have protested this to Donald Trump now. It's good to see Fox News stepping up. I hate those motherfuckers, but they should all be fighting for one another because if it's not them, then when the Democrats in, Fox News is going to get kicked out. You got to think ahead.
Yeah, I use the term Fox News just so people know what I'm talking about, but it is not news. It has never been news. It's Fox opinion, period.
Right. Right.
You know, and it goes beyond opinion. It's Fox propaganda. But if you say that, maybe people won't know what you're talking about. So we'll call it news, even though it's not.
It's just a title. What was that comedy that Joe Rogan was in and Phil Hartman?
News radio.
News radio. Okay, so it was called News Radio, but it wasn't News Radio.
No,
it was a comedy show, and that's pretty much what Fox News is.
Yeah, pretty much. And I still say the two immigrants who have done more to hurt this country than anyone else are Rupert Murdoch and Elon Musk. You know, if you're looking for bad immigrants, there they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, did you hear the recent story? It just came out today. Elon Musk, this goofy motherfucker. He's tripping on ketamine or something because he's just acting irrational. He was at a CPAC meeting. Apparently couldn't put together a sentence. Now he's young enough. He shouldn't be getting dementia as yet, although he is demented. Something's wrong. He's taking some things, but he has like 13 kids with 400 different women. I don't know what the fuck's going on. That's what I don't understand why the Republicans love him. He's got 13 kids with multiple women. He's an illegal immigrant, and he's the biggest welfare recipient in the fucking country.
Yeah, take away his government contracts. He's not nearly as rich.
No. But apparently one of his baby mamas, as they say, came out. She's a singer. Grimes is her name.
Yeah.
And she came out and said, we've got a serious medical problem with our kid. I've tried to text you. I've tried to email you. I've tried to call you. No response. You need to respond. This is a serious issue with your child. Can you at least fucking hire somebody to contact me so we can deal with the situation? That's embarrassing for Elon, but that's Elon. I think Elon has attention deficit because he's bouncing around all over the fucking place.
Yeah, I also think he's just flat out evil. And I don't care where it comes from. If it comes from a mental condition or whatever it is, he's still evil. Okay. I saw him on stage with a waving around a chainsaw.
Yeah, at the CPAC. Yeah.
and revving it up, and guys are standing all around him. It's a wonder, and quite frankly, it wouldn't have broken my heart if he'd taken off a few heads. Maybe that would have woken people up a little bit. But the guy's deranged, and he is dismantling our government right now. The Republican Party is in denial, or they're encouraging it, and nobody seems to be able to stop it, because we never envisioned someone that evil, and I'm talking about him and Trump, could occupy a position that would allow them to do that. I can't believe that the Joint Chiefs are sitting by and not saying, this has gone too far. We're going to put a pause on this. I really think that because otherwise,
I think they could do that. Can they do that?
Not legally, but I don't care. I mean, this is. Let me soften that a little bit. I do care. I hate that it comes to the point, but when you've got a Russian asset sitting at the Oval Office, at the Resolute desk, and he's got his chief factotum running around with chainsaws, it's time for the adults in the room to take away the chainsaw and say, no, we don't do it this way. We're going to put a pause on this administration, and then we're going to let the Congress and the courts work together to rein in this executive branch, because remember, they are co-equal. And I'm already seeing some casual references to John Roberts and others on the Supreme Court, realizing this has gone just a little too far. When you have Russian assets like Tulsi Gabbard and who's the FBI guy, the other foreigner, Kash Patel. When you have Russian assets running your intelligence and your criminal prosecution and DOJ, you have a flunky. It's time to say, okay, the usual rules may not apply here. Let's get together and talk about this, because otherwise, all the good generals are going to be gone. All of the agencies are going to be destroyed, and people are going to feel it in a way they've never felt it before. I've been telling people that since Nixon, the Republicans have fucked me repeatedly in one way or another. Nixon tried to send me off to Vietnam to get killed. Reagan took $40 a month from my paycheck when I was only making $825 a month. W destroyed my 401k so that I had to work extra years to make up for that. And now Trump here is coming to try to mess with the income that I have in retirement. Republicans have been trying to kill me and you, if you make under $1 billion a year, for forever. And it's time for people to wake up and realize that. Never vote for a Republican. And if you can, recall them. And if there's one walking across the street in front of you, I'm not going to tell you what to do.
Trip them. Well, we were talking about the Joint Chiefs and what they can do, or the Supreme Court, what they can do. And I asked if it was legal. And then I realized, what does it matter? Rule of law doesn't exist.
No.
So if it doesn't exist for the Republicans, why should it exist for us? These are unprecedented times. These are unprecedented times. These are desperate times, and it calls for desperate measures.
Right. And it's not hard to know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. If a party wants to cancel school lunches for kids, free school lunches or reduced price school lunches for kids who can't afford it, if they want to let a renegade state like Russia invade one of their neighbors and take territory and kill uncounted numbers of people, both soldiers and civilians, which they've targeted. If they want to burn books, if they want to take away, quote, entitlements, and sort of say, those are the bad guys. Those are the bad guys, okay? Right. And if a church leader tells you, well, If you give money to me, then God will smile on you. That's a bad guy. If a church leader tells you, love your neighbor, that's it. That's it. We're not here to give charity. We're here to, charity is a bad thing. Charity just means that people with stuff will give the bare minimum to people so they can survive. That sucks. What we should be doing is ordering our society so that they're not people who need charity, okay? Those are the good guys, and those are the liberals. Conservatives are not good people. I don't care what you say. They either are actively evil themselves or they are encouraging actively evil people.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think anybody who is doing these things or complicit with these things, they don't deserve any kind of credit at all. We're seeing more and more Republicans coming out and saying, "Oh, I fucked up. Now it's hurting me." And some people say we've got to welcome them in because we need
No,
them
we
in the
don't.
fight. And I liken this with Old Soul yesterday. I said, look, if you got a group of people and one of those people ends up being a sexual predator and he goes away, does his jail time or whatever, he's paid his debt to society. Do you welcome him back in the group? No, because you can't trust the motherfucker. And that's the same with Trumplefucks at this point. Because it bit you in the ass, you're upset now and you want some sympathy. My concern about them isn't that they did something stupid to fuck themselves over. My disdain for them is that they did something to fuck a lot of people who are innocent over. And that part of it is unforgivable.
I agree with you 100%. Now, I will one caveat on that. When the day comes, if they do finally decide to mess around with Social Security, Medicare, and so forth, then I'm going to do my best to rally my fellow. I'm not going to say senior citizens, but I guess that's what we are. My fellow
Gray
recipients,
foxes. Gray
yeah,
foxes.
to march on Washington, and I don't mean passively. I mean like a January 6th march, okay? Because what have we got left to lose? I
I would
mean,
just say
really.
this. I would add a caveat to that. If you got all the senior citizens, you're probably not going to march. It's going to be more
Well,
like a shuffle. It's going to be
well,
a shuffle, but the
and
intent is there.
that's fine. Make the troops fire on you, okay? We learned in the 60s how to stop a war. There were casualties on our side. We learned in the 60s how to change society for the better so far as civil rights go. And we learned how to do it for women's rights too, to a point. And that is it always involves getting into the streets, making noise, and acting up, if you will. Same for gay rights and so forth. It's never easy because you have to change people's opinions by showing them that you mean business. Okay. I was in the middle of several of those fights, and it's always the really good people who may take it in the teeth, but ultimately it's for the benefit of all. And now they're trying to roll all of that back. I mean, the first general that Hegseth is trying to get rid of just happens to be black. What are the odds of that? You
Yeah, it
know, they're
seems unusual.
they're taking any mention of women off the NASA website and other government websites. They're trying to bleach history to the point that only white men have ever done anything good. And if you're okay with that, you're evil. I don't
Yeah,
want to
fuck
know
you.
you. If you're over, and if I have the chance, I'll tell you in no uncertain terms, because
He'll tell you, I'll kick you in the nuts.
well, yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay.
I just
Do
want
you,
to threaten anybody.
do you
But
find any solace in the fact that we are seeing people stepping up a little bit? We see these videos of these town hall meetings and they're going after the Republican representatives. We're hearing about protests in the streets. They're not as huge as Vietnam, but we're still kind of early. Are you getting a sense that people are almost to that point where they've had enough?
A lot of them are, but I'm also seeing a lot of people saying, "Well, they're getting rid of the waste, and they're going to make some mistakes, but they blah 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 blah, and we're going to get $5,000 from the government." And you may, I can see them doing that somehow or other, just to make, uh, to quote, buy silence for a while. I saw people during the campaign. I saw some folks who received checks during COVID saying, "Oh, I want to get Trump back so I can keep getting those checks." Well, no, you know, um, that was never going to happen, right? But a lot of that was also Biden, during
Yeah.
during COVID. But everything that I hear the Republicans saying, every proposal is wrong. It's downright wrong. It is against everything that America is. Now, if you want to say, I mean, that wrong-headed idea that the founders got it completely right, and every jot and tittle of the Constitution must be obeyed exactly, literally as it. No, times change. Times change. Otherwise, we'd still have slaves. Women couldn't vote. So many things that we've changed. Okay, the Constitution is a living document. Anybody who says different is stupid or evil. Take your pick. It's a living document and it needs to be abridged from time to time. But at the same time, there are certain principles in it: one man, one vote, no persons above the law, all of those things that are fairly easy to look at. We can argue whether or not the Second Amendment means everybody from the age of 2 to 200 can have a gun, or if it's only the state militia who says the truth is somewhere in between, as we've worked it out. But we can reasonably talk about things like that. But there are certain things we can't. And one of those is saying that your name has to match your birth certificate if you're a married woman. No, that doesn't work.
Oh, it disenfranchises half, not half, but 69 million people. And when Republicans are asked about that, they don't have an answer for it. Again, they don't think ahead. They just make these crazy fucking claims and these crazy requirements, and they don't think ahead. And it's going to bite them in the ass because if you piss off that 69 million people, they're going to push back. There's just no question. And everybody else that happens to like women, which wouldn't
Yeah.
include most Republicans, but those of us that do like women and respect women will fight for their right to fucking vote.
Yeah, I'm going to say that most Republican congressmen and senators have a wife out of convenience and they have a girlfriend because they can. I mean, I'm all of them, every one of them.
Well,
And
it's
obviously, that's not true. Okay, I'm just saying that is the kind of stuff I do see, though. So many people who are hold up all of these Judeo-Christian rules, which are not valid, and then violate them all the time. I mean, as you pointed out, Trump and Elon Musk both are guilty of adultery
yeah,
over
that's
and over and over again. I mean, this should disqualify them in Christian eyes, shouldn't it?
you would think so. I mean, don't you think our our governmental system, uh, the people in it, in Congress, in the White House, in all these things, it's almost deteriorated to a point where it's a cesspool of snakes. I mean, who
Yes.
can you trust? Even the people that seem the most trustworthy, I bet if you dug down, you'd find some shit and you'd go, oh, that's fucked up. You wonder if it's not time, and maybe this is what's ultimately happening: flush the whole fucking thing and start over with new people.
Well, I have said for some time now that the biggest problem with modern American politics is dark money, that
Yeah.
it's allowed. It should not be. I personally think that the campaign should start maybe in September. That each candidate is given a certain amount of media access. No money, no money
Yeah.
is involved. The media, because they receive the broadcast media I'm talking about here, they receive their license at because we let them have it you and me, we own the broadcast spectrum, not the TV and radio stations. So they should be forced to give up a certain portion of their airtime for each candidate. Local, state, federal, to pitch their case, and then that's it. A very abbreviated campaign, no real money. I just saw Ilhan Omar. Now, a lot of people may not know who she is, but I had the pleasure of voting for her twice as my representative and when I lived in Minnesota. She's of Somali descent, and she represents a Somali area of Minneapolis primarily. Her net worth is $115,000, and 89% of her donations were small donations from individuals and no corporate donations. Now that is, and AOC very much the same. Yeah. That is the model. That is the model for a modern politician. If you can get that sort of support, then I think you're doing pretty good. But everybody else is dependent, and the Democrat and Republican, they're dependent on these corporate sources or billionaire sources or whatever, and they all come with strings. Okay. You got to take the strings away, because I started this particular broadcast, talking about how there are no good Republicans left. And the reason there are no good Republicans left is they don't have to engage with the people. They just buy ads. And I've seen it here in Tennessee, in Northeast Tennessee, the representation, all they said in their ads was, "We support Trump." That was pretty much it. And a few social things that they had no control over. But they ran their ads, and they had the money. Their opponents didn't, or the Democrats had no Democratic opponent, because nobody could fight that money that was coming in from outside, and they couldn't get any of their own. So that's the way the red states maintain. And the dark money is what facilitates it. And the idea that a corporation is a person, or that money is speech, both of these things are wrong-headed. They need to be completely addressed, thrown out.
And there was one Republican representative who introduced a bill to deport Ilhan Omar. And how that brings down the cost of eggs or energy, I'm not sure, but there's obviously a plan.
Yeah. Well, here in Tennessee, they passed a law that says any legislator who votes for anything like a sanctuary bill, it's a felony and they can be imprisoned. Now, that's not going to stand, but they passed it.
It's absolutely fucking ridiculous, some of the things these Republicans want to try to shove down our throat. I think what we're seeing here out of Elon Musk and Donald Trump and the whole Republican Party is basically a smash and grab. I think they sense the end is near in terms of conservatives and Republicans and this whole premise of how they want to see the country. They know it's slipping away because young people are coming into power, and they're grabbing onto anything they can possibly grab. Now, one of the reasons they're in this position is because of the Supreme Court, because they gave Donald Trump free reign to do whatever the fuck he wants. But now John Roberts, the Supreme Court justice, is saying, whoa. He didn't like the idea of hearing that Donald Trump's going to ignore court decisions.
Or impeach judges.
Or impeach judges, yeah. So I think John Roberts has done what the Republican Party and Republican voters have done. They got a couple of things that they like from Donald Trump, so they go all in on him until it bites him in the ass. And John Roberts is seeing that if it keeps going the way it's going, there's no need for a Supreme Court. They lose all their power.
Exactly. And in some cases, they're fine with that. I mean, let's face it, Clarence Thomas is nothing but a grifter. That's all he is. He's just been in it for himself to make money. He does not give a rat's ass about Supreme Court rulings. I mean, to the extent that I personally find him abhorrent, because he does things. I mean, he personally benefited from what we would have called affirmative action at some point. And then he wanted to pull the ladder up, and then every decision he's been a part of has hurt the people like him who needed that little. And I have to say, affirmative action, DEI, does not advance the unworthy. It just removes the artificial barriers that keep people down.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I'm going to put this on TikTok in more detail, but when I was in high school, um, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent. I'll get back to that. Let's keep talking
That's
about
all right.
Supreme Court right now, because I agree with you 100%. All they have really is their legacy. That history will judge them. They don't want to have a ruling that is vilified in retrospect when people look back and see something that the Supreme Court okayed that turned out to be awful. And that's hung around the neck of the Supreme Court justices, particularly the chief judge, right? And
Right.
they don't want that. They don't want that to happen. They don't want their name to be tarnished throughout history. Most of them, like I say, I don't think Clarence Thomas cares. A
He's just
couple of
making
the
money.
Yeah, Neil Gorsuch and a couple of the others are there because they are religious radicals who want to restore the traditional Latin service and so forth. I mean,
Right.
they're in with the Christian nationalists. That's Gorsuch and Comey Barrett and one other one. I can't remember his name at the moment. And then you have those that are somewhere. Then you have on the conservative side some that are just there because they knew they would vote the way they wanted them to, like Kavanaugh. And then you have the good ones on the liberal side. There really should not be that, by the way. And to me, in the Supreme Court, you should not be able to look at a justice and say he is conservative, she is liberal. They should be. We should not know. We should not be able to tell from their rulings what their political basis is. And historically, we have seen a lot of times conservative presidents appointing people who turned out to be very even handed. And the same is true for liberal presidents appointing people that we thought would be staunchly liberal who went along with some things that we may not have cared for. That was in the past. That's not the case. I can tell you right now, when anything comes before the Supreme Court, I can tell you how it's going to fall. I knew with Roe v. Wade, I knew that they would turn it back because they would not have taken that case if they had not intended to do that. So, yeah, the Supreme Court is in a mess right now, but if they can see that they're going to be nothing, then surely there'll be some pushback.
It's always been my fatal flaw, this Pollyanna attitude. Kamala's going to win because it only makes sense.
Yeah.
Congress won't pass this because even the Republicans know this doesn't make sense. Supreme Court will not find in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade because it'd be too big a mess. Every time I've been proven wrong. And I don't
Yeah.
mind being wrong, but it comes down to not wanting to believe that this government is as tainted as it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is. Go ahead.
well, in history, it never would have been the case. You know, when we were young, there were some things that were Republican or conservative and didn't pass because it was just a bridge too far. It was over the line. Now there's no fucking line. Everything is Republican or everything is Democrat. The whole premise of Congress is to compromise and negotiate. That doesn't happen anymore. So as far as I'm concerned, Congress doesn't fucking exist.
That's pretty much the case, quite frankly. I think we, and I use the term we, but you and I are 10 years apart in age, roughly, right? I'm
Yep.
70. I'm 75. You're going on what?
I'll be 65 in April.
Okay, so there you go. And we lived in the best time, particularly me, in the very best time to be a white American, and that was, roughly 48 to 73. And some on either side, but mostly on the upper side. For some people, it went almost to 80, and then the bottom fell out. But and that is for one reason, and that is the Great Depression kicked the shit out of the Republican Party. People blamed them for it, as they should have. and they rallied to the Democrats, and Roosevelt was able to help them get back on their feet and institute things like Social Security and the FHA and all sorts of things that kind of leveled the playing field for a very short time so that average Americans could actually start to accumulate wealth and pass it on to their kids. That all came to a screeching halt in 1980, right? As the Republicans came back with Reagan. They found their figurehead. And let me say this too, every Republican president, Nixon included, has been a figurehead. There have always been people behind him. James Baker, Haldeman and Ehrlichman were running Nixon. James Baker was taking care of Reagan. He was the strength behind the throne, and he knew it. He stayed out. Do you know much about James Baker? Probably not.
Well,
Could you pick
I
him out
remember
of
the
a
name.
yeah, could you
No,
pick
I
him out
couldn't
of a
pick.
lineup? No, and he influenced both Reagan and Bush Sr. Then W
Hey, don't
had
forget about Cheney.
W had Cheney and Grover Nordquist, and now Trump had Steve Bannon the first time and Stephen Miller, and now he's got Elon this time, and it just does my heart good to see Elon and Bannon going at each other's throats. I mean, what does that tell you? But no honor among thieves, right?
The
But
spurned girlfriend.
yeah, exactly. So I don't know where I was on that, except that the Supreme Court is could do something if they because the judges in between are stepping up, and a lot of this is going to eventually wind up at the Supreme Court. Then we'll see what happens as to whether they're going with evil or they're going to try to rein back in order to save their own historical significance.
We've got a Supreme Court decision coming up. You know, Donald Trump wanted to fire this head of an agency. He took it to the appeals court. They said no. He took it to another court. They said no. Now it's going to go to the Supreme Court. This is the opportunity for the Supreme Court to set the tone. And if they aren't sufficiently concerned right now, they're never going to be. They're just all in, and they're going to go off the edge with everybody else. But this would be a very opportune time for a Supreme Court to put Donald Trump back on his heels, because there's nothing Donald Trump can do to the Supreme Court, really, directly, legally, anyway.
No.
And if John Robert and some of these other people are concerned about the way things have gone, first of all, they have to take some responsibility for putting us here. They did that, but they do have the opportunity to push back a little bit. And I would say, in my mind, that's what they're going to do. But my track record of trusting in people's decency has not been good.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, if Roberts and occasionally Kavanaugh has been known to do it, if the two of them can join with the liberal members, then they can do something. If he stays with the conservative side, then there's no chance. To me, it would be insane to say that same thing, that Trump can fire watchdogs, people that are put in place to catch malfeasance, his and other people. If you take, it's like saying, I'm the mayor now, and when I say go, so we don't really need a police department because you're giving tickets to people that I like. So we're just going to disband the police department. That's exactly, that analogy works. That's what he's trying to do, ban the police department. That's why he put Kash Patel in at the FBI. That's why he put Tulsi Gabbard into the intelligence. Oh my God. Has there ever been a less intelligent person in charge of intelligence? I don't think so. He didn't. And Kristi Noem, he didn't even remember her name yesterday, and he still thinks she's governor of South Dakota. I mean, the guy's mind is gone. If you look at him, have you seen him do any rallies or anything? No, and you're not going to. Why? Because he's a tired, fat, old pile of shit, and all he can do is lie and try to make it look like he has control over Elon Musk, which he does not.
No, he does not. And the thing about it is I think there's another reason why he's not doing rallies. Not only is he not doing rallies, he doesn't leave the White House much.
Yeah.
I would think that there's a lot of threats.
he goes, he went to Daytona, he went to the Super Bowl. He's spending a lot of money,
Yeah.
but he wasn't pressing the flesh or anything at either of those events. But he's not getting up on a podium. That's for damn sure.
No, he's not getting up on a
Yeah.
podium. And he went in addition to, I mean, with the Super Bowl and Daytona 500, he is just an attention whore, and he can't stand somebody or something else getting more attention than he does. So he's got to go there to collect whatever adulation he thinks he's going to get. The other fact came out in the 31 days he has been president, 9 or 10 of those days he spent golfing, and it's cost the country $10 million. This
Right. And
motherfucker doesn't work. He just tells everybody else to do something, and then he tries to take credit for it. Unfortunately, those fucks are evil.
yeah, exactly. And if you add the Super Bowl in Daytona in, it's probably closer to 40 million.
Yeah, yeah,
And
and
if you, yeah, and they're trying to cut waste.
yeah,
Biden took the train to his house on the shore. That was his vacations, and probably didn't spend $20 million the whole time.
yeah. It's pretty. Did you? Here's an interesting story, and it's just a stupid little story, but I read it and I just fucking laughed. Donald Trump pulled out the Resolute desk and put a new desk in there. Did you know that?
I
He
did
did.
not.
That's what he did. And people are saying, well, he's just trying to own Biden and Barack Obama because that's the desk they had. I don't think that's the case. I think it's because Elon's little kid wiped boogers on it and he's a fucking germaphobe and he just couldn't stand it anymore.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that he lets the kid anywhere around him for that. I mean, do we know anything about this medical condition? I mean, that I'm assuming that's the kid they're talking about, X,
I
as it
know.
were.
I don't know if it could be. It could be. I don't know. He's got 13 of them. It could be any number.
Yeah, well, Grimes, I think, is that kid's mother, and that she didn't even know that he had taken him to Washington,
Oh,
apparently.
you're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there's also video of them coming down from an airplane, down the steps. The kid's at the top. Elon charges down the steps and disappears, leaving the kid to take the steps one at a time. That tells you all you need to know about Elon and his love for his kids. They're props, that's all. And he's probably carries that kid around so if somebody shoots at him, he can use him as a shield.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, if that kid is sick, if that's the kid that's sick, uh, I kind of like the kid because he put Donald Trump
Yeah.
in his place.
Oh, I love the
Uh,
kid. I do.
uh, Unfortunately, he's the spawn of evil. So I
Yeah.
don't know really what, but if he got sick, it wasn't until after that little meeting with Donald Trump, and I have to wonder, with as messy as Donald Trump's pants are, I hope the kid didn't get dysentery.
Yeah. No shit. Or actually a lot of shit.
No,
But
no.
yeah, anybody who's ever spent time around Trump says the aroma is pretty bad at different times. And I mean, this is Republicans, Democrats, anybody who shared space with him, including if you watch the Queen giving him a what the hell look, and that's what was going on.
Yeah. Well, and it's amazing to me that these people will still bow to him, even though somebody posted, I think some Democrat or a former Republican, Kinzinger, uh, posted something that he's fat, sweaty, smelly, and something else.
Yeah.
And it's all true. And this
Yeah.
guy has the audacity to walk around like he's a fucking male model. And when I look at Elon and I look at Donald Trump, I think I've said this before. It reminds me of the Bob Seger song, Night Moves, where he says, she was using me, I was using her, but we didn't care because we were getting our share.
Yeah.
Elon wants the power, Donald wants the money, and they're just using each other up. And it never ends well.
Yeah. When you look at it, they're the same guy. Both,
Yeah.
inherited money from rich fathers, and they used it to buy stuff. They didn't invent anything. They didn't do anything other than buy stuff and put their name on it. That's what Elon does, and fires people, and tries to make people. I heard him talking about unions, where he said he blamed unions for creating this princes versus the people dichotomy he talked about, which is, exactly opposite. As a matter of fact, with Elon, with Trump, anything they say, it's bizarro world. Just take the. But yeah, I mean, they're the same guy, and that's what you need to know. They are driven by this transactional mentality that not only do they have to win, but somebody has to lose. And
Right.
what troubles me about so many things early on when they asked him, "Don't you think there'll be pushback?" This was before he brought in his Teen Titans to do their thing. He was asked, "Would you think there'll be pushback?" And this is what chills me. He said, "Oh, I suppose the ones who've been doing nothing will grumble for a while, or
Yeah.
the ones who don't do anything will grumble for a while." Now that tells me that he means anybody who receives government pensions, government funds, whether it's veterans or seniors or SNAP recipients or anything like that. They Please believe me, everyone, when I tell you they very much want the Dark Ages back. They want to have a king, they want to have a nobles class, and they will allow also the artisans. We'll call that the technocrats, maybe, or something like that. But everybody else must be a peasant. Everybody else must, for their livelihood, be dependent totally on the largesse of the ruling class. That's what they're going for, and they want to use religion to help do it. But they will make sure that they control that as well. Just like in the Middle Ages, the popes were controlled by the kings, and they
Yeah.
decided what was in the Bible or what was used in anything. That's what they want back on a maybe slightly different scale. And Elon has made some allusions to reducing the population drastically. He's actually made reference to that. And I don't think that is beyond them. I really don't. I was chilled the other day to hear that um, the religious right, we'll call them, religious wrong, the Christian nationalists, and I use that only as a defining term, I mean, only as a identifying term, not as a defining one. There's nothing Christian about them. They refer to the rest of the people as inhumans.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Inhuman. That's you and me, Mike. We're inhumans. That's all the immigrants. That's anybody but and women too, for that matter. Probably who don't exactly kowtow anyway. It's anyone who isn't on their wavelength is an inhuman. This has been going on for this corruption of Christianity has been going on for some time now, at least 3 decades, and it's reached the point now where they're just not hiding it anymore. They think they've got their in and they're going to go with it.
Well, that's what I was saying about Congress, about the presidency, about even local politics, and of course, religion. The problem we have is people get in there that aren't the best people. Greed and power grabs are what take over, and then they justify everything they do according to the Bible or the Constitution. The Bible and the Constitution have been perverted, and it just continues to get worse as long as people allow them to do it. And that's why I'm hoping against hope that it gets so bad. I mean, it gets like the Depression era where big changes have to happen after it's all done, because it will come to an end. It will come crashing down. There's no question about it. But will those changes happen? Will it happen to religion? Will it happen in the way we do government? I don't know. I'm hoping that it does.
Yeah, I do too. I'm hoping that cooler heads prevail and so forth, because this was a dark and bloody area during the Civil War with, relatives shooting each other and just chaos going on here. I can see that happening again. There are people here who are capable of deciding that they should go hunt down anybody who didn't vote for Donald Trump. Um, and I truly believe that. And I do, there's a middle ground of people who just don't pay attention, and then there are the crazies.
Well, I've said that too, that I'm more concerned about a civil war if Donald Trump won because of people. I hear it on the lives I do. I hear it in the comments and emails and stuff. There are people absolutely terrified. They think their future is done. They think their kids have no hope. And when you put people in that situation, there's only really one option for them to do, and that's to fight. You push somebody in a corner, they're going to fight. And with the Republicans and the religious right continuing to push people in the corner, they should be careful what they're asking for because they might fucking get it.
Well, yeah, I tell people, remember when Bush was president and Central Europe, um, when Sarajevo and all of that happened, there were people who were going along. Here we are, we're Europeans, we're civilized, and suddenly they were embroiled in this gigantic civil war that bridged three or four different countries there. Just horrible stuff. Ethnic cleansing and killing each other and so forth, who had lived side by side and been friendly with each other for years and years and years. It can happen, and it can happen here just as well. People who say it can't are just living in a fool's paradise. We have to, we've had institutions that have held until now, and nobody prepared for something like this because nobody thought it was possible for someone so anti intellectual, so self centered, and so stupid to be
Yeah.
elected, and evil to be elected to the highest office in the land. They could not conceive of it, even though we had our Jacksons, we had our Nixons over the years, and we had bad actors like George W. Bush luring us into a war that killed Americans and Iraqis for no particular reason other than that they needed a war. Um, Now that Elon's looking at the Defense Department, I'm wondering what's going to shake out here because most of the money that is spent in national defense goes into the pockets of the oligarchs. We know this. They
Right.
own the defense companies or they're heavily invested in them. That's where the money goes. It goes to them. The money that we were, quote, giving to Ukraine, we were spending with them for the material that we were sending over. The money that was, we were not giving money to Ukraine, we were giving money to the oligarchs. And as much as they, oh, we must stop the war, give me my check. Give me my check.
Right. Well, and that may be the biggest problem, worldwide problem we have now. What's going on with Ukraine and Russia? Donald Trump wants to be the mediator, but he's best girlfriends with Vladimir Putin. And then Donald Trump pulls this thing where we want half your mineral rights. You can
Yeah.
see what's going on here. He's siding with Vladimir Putin. I firmly believe the reason he said he could end the war in 24 hours because he was going to walk into Zelensky and say, I'm big time America, big time Donald Trump. You do what Putin wants, or we're going to rain down holy hell on you. Because that's his strategy. That's his bullying
Yeah.
tactic. He didn't count on the fact that Zelensky would say, fuck yourself. I'm not
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, and
But
it's backfired. By the way, the people of Ukraine have almost universally said, "Fuck you, Donald Trump. We'll fight this on our own if we have to, until the last man and woman."
but what they have going for them is they have the EU and European countries that are saying, "Hey, we got skin in this game. This could
Mhm.
affect us." So they'll ramp things up and keep pushing. And as much as Donald Trump thought he could get Zelensky to back down, if the EU comes in and the European people give them money and people on the ground, this does not help Putin because Putin's not doing that well. He's lost 700,000 people in this fucking fight, not to mention broke the country. Unless
And
Donald Trump can get this shut down, it's going to continue.
yeah, and it turns out North Korean troops are really good at marching in unison, but they're not so good at fighting. That's been a debacle as well.
Yeah.
They have not actually trained for war. They've trained to march up and down in front of Kim Jong Un, and that's what they can do. That's what they're good at, and their rifles probably don't even work. They're probably dummy rifles. People don't realize just what a hellhole of poverty that North Korea is, because the few dollars or the few whatever the won, I suppose, whatever they use, goes to only the Kim Jong Un and his immediate family, nobody else. It's a very poverty-stricken place. So the troops that he got from North Korea and the material is just a waste of time, really.
Well, how do you think this plays out in Ukraine? Vladimir Putin wants to take over the whole country. That's what he
Yeah,
wants to do.
yeah.
Europe does not want that to happen because he knows what that'll be. Donald Trump has been little more than a useful idiot. He doesn't realize he's a useful idiot, but Donald Trump is doing what he always does. He's playing the bully and thinks, I'm this tough guy, so everybody will bend to me. But nobody's bending to him anymore. Every time he tries it, the one thing he said after he made that offer to Zelensky, he says, you better hurry. This isn't going to last forever. And whenever I've been in business, somebody says that to me, you're fucking lying to me. You're trying to fuck me over. He tried the same thing with Hamas. You don't let all those hostages go by Saturday, all hell's going to break loose. Well, they still got hostages.
Yeah, and it looks like the peace. It looks like the peace may break down just based on the family, the bodies they retrieved, of the little kids and so forth the other day. The people were so outraged they don't want a peace deal on the Israeli side now. They really want to punish Hamas. So we'll see what happens there. But I guarantee you, when it all settles, one thing: the U.S. will not own Gaza.
No, nobody wants that to happen. And I'll tell you the difference between, when Joe Biden is in and they got a peace deal, right? I knew once Donald Trump got in, that peace deal would go to shit because Biden was putting pressure on Netanyahu. Netanyahu is a linchpin of this war continuing.
Yeah.
And once that pressure came off and Donald Trump says, I'll back you, we knew this would go on indefinitely because Netanyahu needs it to go on indefinitely.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny in a perverse way to watch the Republicans struggling with this. They're trying to say, well, he didn't really say that. Well, he did say that. I mean,
absolutely said it.
Trump said, Ukraine started the war. That's bullshit. Everybody knows it's bullshit. It started in 2016 when, with the taking of Crimea, and then again in 2022 with the Bain invasion, which was really nothing but a big traffic jam, if you'll remember. I mean, not to downplay it because lots of people died and it's terrible, but it was inept and stupid, as invasions go. And they were driven back, and they've been stuck where they are, largely because of the winter, no doubt. But still, Russia does not have the resources to win this war. Not if Ukraine is supplied. And I'm really thinking you're going to see Europe standing up. And here's another thing. Trump lied when he said that the U.S. was the major supporter of Ukraine. In fact, collectively, Europe has put a lot more in than we have. And once again, this was the money that was spent there was spent with American companies to buy the things that we sent over there. So we were doing those oligarchs were doing great, just like they do in every war, and that's the justification for every war.
What we were doing with Ukraine and stopping that is kind of akin to U.S. aid. We were giving these poor people money, but they were spending it with us, our farmers. So who gets fucked? Farmers, the contractors now with this, and either they don't know that or they don't care because it ends up biting us in the ass. I think Vladimir Putin wants this war over worse than anybody because he is dying on the vine there. His country is going broke. Yeah, I wish he would too.
I just wish one of his cronies would think, well, maybe it's my turn and blow the fucker's head off. I mean, that would I'd love to see that. I'd just watch the video over and over again if I could find it. I just wanted to touch on one thing before we get done, and that is Congress. Congress is bringing forth a budget, right? the Republican House, bringing forth a budget that I'm praying will not make it. But one thing they want to do is raise the debt ceiling, that pesky debt ceiling that they were so against raising the whole time Biden was in office. They want to raise it by $4 trillion. Now, the last time Trump was in, he added $8 trillion to the debt. Now, this time they want to raise it to $4 trillion. And I'll tell you what they want to do here. They want to bankrupt the country so that they don't have to pay the entitlements. That is their strategy here. In cutting everything and in reducing revenue, because also with that is a $4 trillion tax cut for the big boys. Yeah. So if you don't have the revenue, people don't understand that when revenue comes in, it is immediately spent because we're in deficit. It's spent, and that includes Social Security. It's just that then they're issued interest-bearing bonds. That's where Social Security is. But if you can't redeem those bonds, you can't pay the money. That's what they're going for. They're going for basically impoverishing the government. That's their strategy.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think the question is if you're going into the government, cutting billions, even trillions of dollars every day, why do you need to raise the debt limit? That makes no fucking sense.
No, it doesn't. And there's no one who can justify it. No one. Because it doesn't make sense. And every financial person with any integrity is saying the tariffs are going to fuck us. You know, you're not going to reduce inflation. It's going to go right back where it was to 8 or 9%. Biden got it down to 2%.
Yeah. Well, and, yeah.
Now it's at 3, and now it's already at 3 after 1 month of Trump.
Yeah, it's going up, and it will continue to go up, and things will take a shit, and hopefully people feel the pinch and they see the light. I'm not as confident with some dumb motherfuckers that I talk to. They're absolutely ridiculous. When I talk to some of these Trump fucks, I say, what policy do you like? And they can't answer it. And I basically say, so you're not really about policy. You're a fanboy piece of shit. You just like him because you think he's cool or you like the way he talks. You know, I had one guy honestly come to me and say, I like him because he's no bullshit. Oh, really? He's not bullshit. He told you he'd bring down the prices, he'd bring down inflation, and now he tells you he's not going to do that. That seems like the epitome of fucking bullshit.
Of course it is. I mean, all he did through the whole campaign was lie about what, well, remember day one, we're going to close the border and we're going to drill, baby, drill. Well, it turns out he has absolutely no control of, well, we knew this. He had no control of who drills where or what. He can open up Arctic reserves and that so forth for drilling, but does that mean they're going to drill? No. And even if they did, does that mean it would benefit America? No, it'll go on the world market just like all the other oil, and whoever pays the most will get it. So that was 2 lies right there. And as far as I know they're Mexico has put more people along the border and stuff, and it's slowed down somewhat, but he has not closed the border. There's still plenty of commerce coming and going. It will stop when he actually puts that 25% tariff in place. But for now, it's that's on pause and it's going along. But he is nothing but bullshit. That's all he is. That's all he's ever been. And I mean, even when he was on The Apprentice, he was bullshit. He was not a successful businessman. He was holding on by his fingernails. And if he hadn't gotten that gig, he probably would have gone bankrupt yet again.
No question. I have a lot of disappointment, and my disappointment isn't in Donald Trump lying. We should all know he's a pathological liar. The fact that he lies, that's what Donald Trump does. What's disappointing is that people in this country, a certain amount of people in this country, continue to believe lie after lie. And when I talk to these Trump fucks, he's lied to you. And now you say, well, I didn't think he meant that. I figured he was going to do this instead. He didn't mean that. This motherfucker lies every day.
Yeah.
And the fact that you believe these lies every time, that is the definition of fucking stupidity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a born cynic. I won't say I was born a cynic, but I developed it quickly. And the reason I developed it quickly was because my family lived in the black area of town. The white people told me black people are dirty and they steal and they lie and they're morally corrupt and all of this. But I saw our black neighbors weren't like that, so I figured out you people are lying. And why are you lying? Oh, I get it. It's because you're on top and you want to stay that way. You
Right,
want to
right.
keep them so that they have to work for what you want to pay and do the jobs you don't want to do. I figured that out pretty quick. I was under 10 by the time I figured that out. And I've been a cynic ever since. And I have been, and I look at Democrats and Republicans or independents by the same exact measure. Are you doing stuff to help people in general, or are you doing stuff to help one small group of which you are a member? And if you don't pass that standard, you don't get my vote, and I will actively oppose you.
Absolutely. Well, Ed, we're going to wrap things up. I know you're a busy man. You're retired. You're 75 years old. Things are just always popping, right? You always got
Mm-hmm.
something going
What?
on.
Huh? What? Oh, yeah.
Anyway, thank you
Yeah.
for coming on.
Always glad to. It's always fun. I don't know that we change any minds, but at least we get it off our chest.
a couple of old guys. What do we got? 140 years between us?
At least.
140 years between us. Uh, the fact that anybody listens to old guys like us is truly fucking amazing. So I'm going to take advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, just don't listen to people because they're old, because half of the old people are Trump fucks. Okay,
Yeah.
listen to me, listen to Mike.
Yeah. And we're not asking you for money. We're not
No,
asking for anything. We're just hopefully trying to help out the best we can. Anyway, thank you, Ed. And for those of you listening, thanks for taking the time. Hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.